Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, which you can go subscribe over there on YouTube. Indy Sports Ticket, you can hop in the chat to be part of the conversation as we continue to talk about the Colts as they get off to their 1-0 starts. You can watch the show over on X, __ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM if you're just cruising around the Indianapolis area. And, I'm so excited for today's show. Max Toscano, the tight end guru, has a great Substack called Remember the Tight End. Just a really smart football guy in general. Also does some work covering the Bengals. He's going to join the show to talk about Tyler Warren and his debut. Had him on during the NFL Combine, and he just waxed poetic about Colts rookie Tyler Warren. So I'm going to bring him in today, 11 o'clock, and we're going to continue to talk about this new Colt stud at tight end. It's going to be awesome. Trust me, you don't want to miss Max. He always does a great job. But I have to start with the most popular man in Indianapolis, and it is just amazing how quickly things can change for quarterbacks in the NFL. Daniel Jones shows up here in Indy, and the consensus opinion is, not a real competition. He's going to back up Anthony Richardson. And that's kind of the idea because we're getting all these reports on how good Anthony Richardson's doing in camp and all that kind of stuff. And then Shane Steichen just drops a total bombshell. People erupt. What? They're going to start Daniel Jones? They're over Anthony Richardson, the former number 4 overall pick? And people got very upset about it. And then week 1 happened. Daniel Jones played the best game he's probably played in the last 2 years. And now everyone's pretty cool with it. It's like, hey, I think we have a chance against the Broncos. And I was thinking about this last night, and I was really just thinking about the NFL week in general. And, there's all these quarterback rankings that come out every year. It's like, this guy's the best, and the answer to that question should always be Mahomes right now. And I was thinking about it, and I'm just a simple guy. I like simple, okay? Like, before I got married, big microwave dinner guy. Oh, you mean I can just put this thing in the microwave for a minute, and then I'm good? That's easy. I will do that all the time, okay? Like, that's me. I like things that are simple and easy to digest, okay? And I think that there are 2 kinds of quarterbacks in the NFL. There's good quarterbacks and there's bad quarterbacks, obviously. But how do you define what is good and what is bad? Good quarterbacks, guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, guys like that, when they play your favorite team, like like the Colts are going to go on the road and play Mahomes later in the season. Like they don't see Lamar Jackson, they don't see Josh Allen, and they don't see Joe Burrow this year. When the Colts go on the road to play against the Chiefs, if Patrick Mahomes, completes 68% of his passes and he throws for 328 yards and 3 touchdowns, what's the reaction going to be? The reaction is going to be, that's Patrick Mahomes. That's just what he does. If Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson, if they tear up your defense, there's no freak out. It's just it's a great quarterback. That dude's really good at football. He does that to a lot of teams throughout the season. And then let's say that the Colts go down to Kansas City later in the season, coming off the bye week, so week 11, I believe. And let's say Mahomes has a bad day. Mahomes completes 62% of his passes, throws for 204 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks though. Then we're going to leave that game and wow, Colts defense, Lou Anarumo. Shout out Chris Ballard going to get Chavarius Ward and Xavier Howard and Cam Bynum in free agency. If any one of those four quarterbacks or any of the other quarterbacks that you would deem as good in the NFL, if they play badly against your team, then the reaction to that performance is really positive. Like, you just feel naturally really good about it. And you should. You should, right? If you slow down one of those guys. And then there's the flip side of this with the quarterbacks in the league that aren't as good. Okay? Like, if Spencer Rattler, starting quarterback for the Saints, if he plays against your team and he has a day, that's not a good sign. It's just not, I don't think the Colts play any terrible quarterbacks this season. It's a lot of average guys and up, unless Cam Ward ends up being bad, which I don't really expect to happen. But there's a lot of Brock Purdy's and Sam Darnold's and Bo Nix's on the Colts schedule this upcoming season. So they're not going to have the joy of playing against quarterbacks like a Joe Flacco, a Spencer Rattler, or a Justin Fields. And when those guys show up, if they play well against your defense, then you're concerned. The Steelers thought that they were going to have an outstanding defense once again this year. The Steelers spend more money on the defensive side of the football than any other than any other team in the NFL. So Justin Fields shows up in that week one game, and he shows up in that week one game, and he just tears up the Steelers defense. And now Steelers fans are concerned. Justin Fields has been so bad as a quarterback that when he plays well, he makes teams question themselves. The Steelers are like, oh man, we made this trade to bring in Jalen Ramsey. We got rid of Minka. Did we make the right decision there? We brought in Darius Slay as well. He's kind of older. Was that the wrong decision? And, TJ Watt is still kind of a stud, but has he lost a step? And Cam Hayward, should they have paid him earlier? That way he played more during training camp. And all these questions are now being asked because Justin Fields had a really good day against Pittsburgh. And then the inverse of that is true as well. Like, if your defense plays well against a Spencer Rattler, Joe Flacco, or Justin Fields, then you just kind of move on. You're like, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. Like, you don't put too much stock into that. And I was thinking about this with the Colts, and I think it applies really well. I think Colts fans should feel great about the defense this year because they slowed down Tua and all of his weapons. With Tua, it's a little interesting because he's a pretty average quarterback. Like, he's probably somewhere between the 14th and the 18th best quarterback in the NFL. Okay, but when he's got Tyreek Hill, like he did on Sunday, and he's got Jalen Waddle, like he did on Sunday, and he's got Devon Achane, like he did on Sunday, and you make him turn the football over 3 times, he throws not 1 but 2 interceptions, then you should feel good about the defense, right? And I think that was a large part of the reaction after the Colts win on Sunday. It's like, oh man, Colts defense going to be pretty good. Lou Anarumo getting it done. The mad scientist is out here dialing it up on the defensive side of the football. So I was thinking about that over the weekend. And then I was thinking about the inverse of it. The Dolphins should be concerned about their defense because Daniel Jones had an excellent day. And I say that, and people are going to get upset with me. Oh, Jonathan, you're so negative. I don't think I'm negative. I just think that I'm honest. Okay, we've got 6 years of data that tells us that Daniel Jones, with 1 year being the exception, that Daniel Jones has struggled throughout his time in the NFL. And I continue to think about this, and when, bringing in Daniel Jones, that there has been this comparison pretty directly to Sam Darnold. Like whenever Chris Ballard is behind the microphone and he's asked about bringing in Daniel Jones, he always brings up the resurgence of Geno Smith and Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and so on. And I bring up all this stuff about good and bad quarterbacks and how they make you feel about your team's defense to get to this point, Sam Darnold last year went from a guy who, when he played really well against your defense, you said, oh man, is our defense bad? To, hey man, like that's just Sam Darnold. And that's just what he does now, apparently. He transitioned from bad quarterback that makes you question your defense when he plays well to good quarterback that when he plays well against your defense, you say, okay, he's a good player. I get it. So last year, one of my favorite segments that we would do here on the show was the quarterback defense attorney for Anthony Richardson. And it was fun, and I'd get in here and I'd defend Anthony and blame everybody else, and people would get upset. It was awesome. It was so much fun. It was a real staple of the show. Can't really do that this year because Daniel Jones isn't as bad as Anthony Richardson is. And so this year, we're going to do Over the Hump Day for Daniel Jones. And we're going to monitor whether or not he can kind of get over this hump of bad quarterback to good quarterback who was just in a bad situation to start the year. He's also going to be the reason why or why not the Colts do or don't get over the hump to get back into the playoffs. And of course, he himself is fighting over the hump. It is Wednesday, which means it's time for Over the Hump Day here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-woo! Hump day!
No, as a coach, I gotta get us over that hump. I gotta get them comfortable, knowing that you're gonna be in close games and you gotta make plays coming down the home stretch. I mean, in the tournament, we were right there. I just didn't get them over the hump, man. And that's something that I live with every day of my life. Because I truly believe that was the team to really make some noise and get to the finals, and I just couldn't get them over the hump.
Shout out Mike Woodson for this segment. Got to get over the hump, and we're going to be monitoring whether or not Daniel Jones can get over the hump throughout this season. And he's on a 1-year prove-it deal. He's got 1 year to come in, be the guy, not just a guy, but the guy for the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, 1 year, $14 million, sink or swim. If you're good, you're going to get another contract. If you're bad, you're probably going to be a backup for the rest of your career. And he's trying to reach this point. He's trying to get over this hump to where the Colts not only want to bring him back, but have to bring him back next year. And I think he's done two things early on here in Indy to move in that direction of getting over that hump of being worthy of one of those $35 million a year contracts. Because I don't think he's going to get much more than that. Maybe he'll get 40, but he'd have to have a truly special season to get anything more than that. I think he's going to be looking for a Baker Mayfield kind of deal that he got in Tampa after this season, 35 to 40 million bucks a year. And then if you do really well on that contract, then maybe the Colts make you a $50 million a year kind of guy. We'll see if that happens. But he's done two things to move in that direction. One, he won the job. That step number one, complete. Right? Because if Anthony Richardson beats you out, I know that the consensus opinion before the year started for Anthony Richardson was, if you get beat out by Daniel Jones, then you're done. The same thing was true for Daniel Jones. If you get beat out by a guy who's completed 51% of his passes throughout his career, then you're done as a starter in the NFL. So that was the first thing he did. He won the job. He is the Colts guy from week 1 through the end of the season. That's what Shane Steichen said. Don't really believe him on that, because if things go sideways for Daniel, they will pull him. Okay, they will. And then he comes out week 1 amidst all of the angst in this, Colts fan base. Comes out week 1 and he just plays really well. Okay, I won't say that he played great, but I thought he played really well. Okay, 22 of 29, 272 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 3 total touchdowns, 2 right there on the quarterback sneaks in the red zone. Right? Like he couldn't have played a better game week 1 given the circumstances, right? Look, if you score every time you touch the ball, whether it's field goals or touchdowns, you're going to have a pretty decent chance to win every game that you play. That's just the reality of it. And as a quarterback, it's your job to lead the team down the field and score points. And he did that every single time. Would I have liked to have seen more touchdowns? Absolutely. But, 33 points, won't scoff at that at all. So how would I define Daniel Jones getting over the hump? Because he hasn't gotten over it yet. I want to go back to Sam Darnold last year and to that shift that happened at some point during the season, where he went from a guy who, when he played well, you questioned the defense, to a guy who, when he played well, you didn't question the defense. You just tipped your cap and you said, you know what? Sam Darnold's having a top 5 year amongst quarterbacks in terms of statistics. And you just admit that Sam Darnold was great that day. And then you move on. And it doesn't really bother you. Daniel Jones is not at that point yet. I just know that Miami Dolphins fans, I know because I'm one, are freaking out about how terrible that secondary is and about how bad that pass rush was, right? And so we haven't reached that point yet where when Daniel Jones plays well, you just say, hey, Daniel Jones has figured it out and he tore up my team today. Sam Darnold last year got over that hump of feeling like your defense stunk when he beat you. And that is the hump that Daniel Jones is trying to get over this season. Okay, after the Dolphins game, the reaction was not, Daniel Jones played well. The reaction was, the Dolphins defense is terrible. And Nerd Boy, according to Rex Ryan, he's not bitter at all about being passed upon or passed on for the Miami Dolphins job. He calls him Nerd Boy, and it's about how bad of a coach he is. None of it has been about how good Daniel Jones was /is/could be. Okay, so that's the hump that he's trying to get over. And it's really funny because I think that both the Ravens and the Bills should be concerned about their defenses after that awesome duel that we had on Sunday night. But everyone's just like, I don't know, Josh Allen's really good. Sometimes he just scores 41. And then other people are like, Lamar Jackson's just really good. Sometimes he scores 40. And then we just kind of chalk it up to both of these defenses played against really good quarterbacks. And that is where Daniel Jones needs to get to for me to change my opinion on him and for him to earn that $35 to $40 million a year contract that I know that he wants. Okay. Daniel Jones took a step in the right direction with the big game against the Dolphins. And he's going to have an excellent chance to take another step against the Denver Broncos because he's playing against a much better team than the Miami Dolphins. There are some people who have picked the Broncos to win the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs haven't lost the AFC West in over a decade. And there are people picking the Broncos to dethrone the Chiefs in that division. Okay, this is a significantly bigger test than a Miami Dolphins secondary that was thrown together with a bunch of day 3 draft picks and free agents that no one else wanted. That is not, in the slightest, this Denver Broncos defense. Okay, the team that led the NFL in sacks last year. Nick Bonito, 13.5 sacks on the season. Zach Allen, just an absolute menace on the defensive lines. DJ Jones, really good nose tackle. Okay, Dre Greenlaw is one of the best linebackers in the NFL, both in the run game and in coverage. Patrick Surtain won the Defensive Player of the Year last year. He's going to follow probably Michael Pittman Jr., if I had to guess. So, how does Daniel Jones perform against this elite pass rush, a really good defensive coordinator, and the best cornerback in the NFL, probably following his best wide receiver? Oh, and let's also remember that they brought in Talanoa Hufanga, one of the best safeties in the NFL. Riley Moss, really good corner. Really good corner. Brandon Jones, solid at safety. This is a significantly tougher test. And if Daniel Jones walks out there and he goes 20 of 30 for 262 yards and 2 passing touchdowns, then all of a sudden, remember, the antenna is going to go up. It's going to be like, has Shane Steichen fixed Daniel Jones? Seriously, like that is, it's such an important game for him. Because if he's bad on Sunday, and he throws 2 picks and the Colts score 13 points and they lose, 24-13 and Daniel Jones has a bad day, then everyone's like, all right, yeah, nothing's really changed with Daniel Jones. He just played a bad defense in week 1. So he's got a real opportunity to make a real statement this Sunday against the Denver Broncos. And I hope that he does. I want him to be good. I want for the Colts to be good. And it all really starts with him at the quarterback position, because that is the thing that the Colts have missed time and time again over these past, 6 years now. I hope that Daniel Jones is the answer, and he's going to have an opportunity on Sunday to take another step in proving that he is. So last year, this is my second year doing a show during the NFL season. And last year I did this thing called Top 10 Tuesday, where I'd rank the 10 best teams in the NFL. And it was fun. I liked doing it, but the segment kind of dragged. It wasn't great. So I've switched it up a little bit. Okay. From now, for this season, we're going to try this thing called the Third Day Top 3. And it's not necessarily the 3 best teams in the NFL. It's just the 3 NFL teams that I enjoyed watching the most on Sunday. I'll give you those 3 teams when we come back in 4 minutes.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app. 30 minutes from now, Max Toscano is going to be joining the show. The tight end guru, former, he used to be a defensive and analytics intern for UConn football, writes about football all the time now. So he's awesome, really smart guy. He's going to join to talk about Tyler Warren and his debut. Big day for me. Today's my 2-year anniversary with my wife. It's great. It's great. Love it. Love her. And marriage is a good thing. I like it. So I also like football. My wife loves me, even though I probably love football a little bit too much. She's just the best about me being like, hey, it's college football Saturday. I'm gonna watch football all day today. And then we wake up on Sunday morning and then we go to church and then we get home. She's like, Jonathan, are you gonna watch football today? I'm like, absolutely I am, and she's just the best about letting me do that. So I love my wife so much. And yeah, it's been good. So third day, top 3, a new thing that we're rolling out this year. Just the 3 NFL teams that impressed me the most over the weekend. Okay, number 1 is the Los Angeles Chargers. By far, to me, they had the most impressive win going on the road to Brazil. Okay, hot, humid, just doesn't seem like a great place to play football in September. They go down there to play against their division opponents, the Kansas City Chiefs, and they did something that you very rarely have seen teams do against the Chiefs, and that's just take a game from them. The Chiefs are the best team in the NFL at making the play of the game. Chris Jones getting a sack, Patrick Mahomes converting a big 3rd and 12, all of that kind of stuff. Okay? I mean, it's so impressive the way that the Chiefs are always able to do that. And I was kind of waiting for it on Friday night. Mahomes is going to make a play, or Chris Jones is going to come up with a sack or a big run stuff or something like that. And it never happened. Instead, the Chargers were the team that did that. Every big third down, Justin Herbert was like, I got it, fellas. Don't you worry about it. Quentin Johnston, a guy who can't catch, yeah, he's going to catch everything and be awesome the entire time. Okay? Justin Herbert flat out outplayed Patrick Mahomes. And that's saying a lot because I thought that Mahomes was awesome in that game on Friday night. Okay, they're down their left tackle. They got to move Joe Alt from right tackle to left tackle, and he just stonewalls everybody over there. It was really impressive watching him do that. And Justin Herbert cruises to a nice little 25 of 34 for 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. His yards per attempt was up at 9.4. Okay, he had a big scramble late for a first down to end the game, to put it on ice. The Chargers did do the Chiefs what the Chiefs usually do to everyone else, and that is make the big play when it needs to be made. Very impressive. I like the Chargers so much more after watching that game. They lost. I can see his face. They lost their original left tackle during training camp when he tore his ACL. And it didn't even matter. It didn't even matter. Rashawn Slater, the Chiefs still couldn't get home with Rashawn Slater not playing, just very impressive performance from them. And man, the AFC West is so good. Number 2 is the Bills. If you come back down 15 points in the final 4 minutes of a game against a team good enough to win the Super Bowl, because that is how good the Baltimore Ravens are, you're going to make this list every single time. And this has kind of become a bit of an issue for the Ravens, blowing these double-digit leads. And again, we see the importance of teams making the play when it needs to happen, right? You know, the Bills cut the game down to a 1-score lead. The Ravens are trying to put the game on ice. They've been running the football well all game. And what happens? Ed Oliver busts through on a little toss play to Derrick Henry. Doesn't even try to make the tackle. He just goes for the football. He punches it out. Bills jump on it. And then Josh Allen, as Josh Allen does, finds a way to win the game. He also scored 41 points. Like, that offense is absolutely insane. And then you've got the Ravens, who just, like, they've got to work on their end of the game clock management. There's one play where, the Ravens are trying to wind clock and there's 22 seconds left on the play clock and they're snapping the football. Like, that's just not smart. It's not. Like, that's just not smart on Lamar Jackson's side of things. And this has become a real issue for them. Ever since Lamar Jackson entered the league, the Chiefs have had the most 2-possession or more leads in the fourth quarter than any other team in the NFL, with 31. That's really impressive. Most games in the NFL are close. Okay, like, the Ravens have done a better job of blowing teams out than any other team in the NFL. And there's some other notable teams in there, like the Bills 20 times, the Chiefs 24 times. And when you go through it, the Ravens blow significantly more double-digit fourth-quarter leads than any of the other top 5 teams. Okay, I won't run you through all the records, but of all the top 5 teams, 4 of them have only lost. The most losses that have happened are 2. The Chiefs, by the way, 24-0 when they have a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. The Ravens have lost 6 games since drafting Lamar Jackson where they have a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. It is an issue, and they have to figure out a way to close out games. The third most impressive performance I saw in the NFL on Sunday was the Colts. They played as complete of a game as you'll see in the NFL. No one else came close. No one else came close to playing as complete of a game as the Colts did. Now, there were teams who offensively played better. I thought, the Ravens and the Bills offensively looked better than the Colts did. I thought that the Steelers offensively looked better than what the Colts did. There's defenses that I thought looked better than the Colts. Like, that Green Bay Packers defense is going to be nasty. It just is. I was very impressed by the Browns defense holding the Bengals to only 17 points. If they had a kicker who could make an extra point and a 36-yard field goal, then the Bengals start 0-1 again. So while there were different units that I thought played better than the Colts, no, there wasn't another team in the NFL that had both sides of the ball play as well as the Colts did. They won by 25 points. It's a 4-possession game. It is so rare to see teams in the NFL win by 4 possessions. All right, it's like watching Nick Saban's Alabama team play against like a low-level SEC team. That's what it was like. Like, it wasn't close from the get-go. And just a really nice change of pace from the Colts. And they should 1,000% have everyone's attention after that game. Because I get it. The Dolphins aren't very good. But even the bad teams in the NFL have like close contests. Like, I don't think that the Cowboys are very good this year. And they only lost by 4 on the road against Philly. I don't think that the Browns are very good this year, but they lost by 1 to the Bengals. I don't think that the Saints are very good this year, but they only lost by 7, 1 possession to the Cardinals. The Jets, a team that, their over-under was set at 6.5. They lost by 2 at home to what I think is going to be a pretty good Steelers team. Even the bad teams play in close games. And the Colts blowing out the Dolphins the way that they did simply doesn't happen in the NFL very often. I feel so good about my preseason over-under bets. And there's 2 in particular that I hope that you jumped on, and I'm going to encourage you to jump on in 4 minutes.
Dan Dockage at noon. The real Jonathan Smith Show. Now. This is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe watching on X _ Jonathan Smith. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. No matter how you're listening, I really appreciate it. Max Toscano, who does a great job covering the NFL, more specifically the tight end position. He's joining the show coming up here in about 15 minutes. Had him on during the NFL draft combine process, and he just waxed poetic about Tyler Warren for 30 minutes, and he's going to do it again after Tyler Warren's debut. Max Toscano coming up here in about 15 minutes. Now, I gave out over-unders. This is the thing that I'm really good at. I'm trying not to get cocky, I say, is right after I just said this is something that I'm really good at, but I feel so good about my over-under bets this season, 2 in particular, and I'm going to ask you right now to just do yourself a favor and get in on this action. Take the Raiders over 7.5 wins and take the Jags over 7.5 wins. You will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. I'm telling you. Okay? Over 7.5 wins for the Raiders was plus 125. It's probably come down a little bit since then. The over on the Jags was minus 125. That's probably stayed the same, considering that they were such big favorites over the Carolina Panthers in week 1. So I'm just like the Raiders bet, especially. I'm actually going to pull it up here and see if it's still the same at over 7.5 wins. Yeah, it's down to minus 110. So still, pay 110 to win 100. Like that's still pretty good odds for you. So yeah, I just love that team. Like the value of having an experienced quarterback who can really sling it is really nice to have. He had a big day against the New England Patriots. I mean, just lit them up in every way, shape, and form. 24-34, 362 yards passing, and a touchdown. Like, come on now. That's so good. So good from a guy in Geno Smith who's been around a long time and has just done an excellent job. Averaged over 10 yards per attempt. They didn't run the ball great, but if your quarterback's going to sling it around the yard like that, then kind of hard not to like them. The Patriots, they're going to be fine. They're a year away. And then the Jags, 26-10, just doing what you should do against a bad team. So get on those bets if you can. Seriously, Raiders over 7.5 wins, Jags over 7.5 wins. Okay, I'd even take the Raiders to make the playoffs. Man, the AFC West is just loaded. I haven't gotten to talk college football at all this week, and that's a good thing. It just means that, the Colts played well. I feel like last week I was talking college football on Tuesdays because the Colts would be just disappointing on Sundays. So I am really looking forward to football this Saturday because the teams in state are finally going to start playing some games that actually matter. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do a whole 10-minute thing on Indiana beating Kennesaw State 56-7. I'm not going to talk about Purdue beating Southern Illinois or whoever they beat, pretty handily. Right? So Purdue comes out, they cruise in their first 2 games. Barry Odom, already topping Purdue's win total from last year. And we still don't know if they're any good or not. We're going to find out 3:30 on Saturday. And just with the way that football works, like you can tell pretty quickly, especially in college football, like, are you outmatched or not? USC is going to probably be like a middle tier Big Ten team this season. And like I said, we're going to learn very quickly how good or bad this Purdue team is because we still don't know. We still don't know because it's every guy's new except for one. Okay. Everyone else is new. We're going to get a real look at this roster on Saturday. Is the defense going to be good? That is the Barry Odom calling card. was a defensive coordinator for a long time before becoming a head coach. And I'm very intrigued just to kind of see what they look like. They don't have to win. They just have to keep it close and keep it respectable. Okay? They are 21.5-point underdogs. That's a lot. All right? At a minimum, cover, right? Maybe lose by 10 and give people any sort of reason to like have a little bit of faith in this Purdue football team, because they came out last year and just got their doors blown off in pretty much every conference game except for 3. Okay. They played Illinois close. That game was weird. They lost 50-49. No, Northwestern, they lost in overtime, 26-20. And then they played Michigan State really close, 24-17. Every other game was just a blowout. Like Notre Dame beat them 66-7. Nebraska beat them by 18. A bad Wisconsin team beat them 52-6. Oregon beat them 35-0. Ohio State beat them 45-0. They lost 49-10 against Penn State. Like the games weren't even respectable. Just make it respectable on Saturday when you host USC. All right? Home field advantage, it's a real thing here. Not because I expect for their stadium to be super loud, but because USC is traveling from Southern California all the way out to Purdue, and they're playing at 3:30, middle of the day. I feel like those night games for West Coast teams coming out east, I think that's just a little bit easier on them, just a little bit more time to recover and those types of things. So, look, they're not better than USC. That's why they're a 21.5-point underdog. Just make it a game. Just give Purdue fans something to believe in, right? Because last year they didn't have anything to really believe in. So, Oklahoma not being talked about enough after their win against a good Michigan team. John Mateer might have to put some money down for him to win the Heisman. And I'm kind of serious whenever I say that. This is going to sound crazy, and I don't like that I'm saying this, but he kind of reminds me of Lamar Jackson. Just like super quick, blazing fast, big arm, just kind of figure stuff out on the fly. His ability to extend plays is really impressive. They're playing a bad team this week, which is fine because they just played, they're playing Temple. Yeah, that's who it is. And so, after playing Michigan, like you want to play Temple, that's totally fine. They've got an incredibly tough schedule. Like you're not going to find the schedule much more difficult than what OU has to go through this year. But they finally got a real quarterback. That has been the thing that Brent Venables hadn't been able to find. And that defense is so good. Like they gave Bryce Underwood all sorts of issues, and they're going to have a chance in every single game that they play. So like they should blow out Temple this week, and then they're going to play Auburn at home, a team that they should be better than. Should be. I don't know. Auburn, maybe they've got it rolling now. Kent State blowout, and then they get Texas. John Mateer's better than Arch Manning. They're going to have a chance in that game. Then they're at South Carolina. Dude, watching Mateer and Lenore Sellers. Like, if you just want to see athletes at quarterback, that game's going to be awesome. They're going to have a chance against Ole Miss and Tennessee and Alabama and Missouri and LSU. Just what a gauntlet of games there. Jeez. I don't think there's a team in the Big Ten who has a stretch like that. So they have a real quarterback and a real defense. Like, this is a team that, if they're fighting for a playoff spot, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. When it comes to Michigan in the Big Ten, they're going to be fine. Their schedule is absolute cake. Like they're probably going to go 8-1, maybe 9-0 in Big Ten play this year. I think their first Big Ten game's at Nebraska, who wasn't super impressive when they played Cincinnati, and then they get Wisconsin, who 7-5, 8-4. I think that's kind of the expectation for them this year. USC, down year, not great at quarterback, not great at the skill positions like they have been in years past. And then they get Washington. Should be better in year 2 under Jeb Bush, but not a threat in the same way a Penn State or Ohio State is going to be. And then Michigan State's bad again. Purdue, probably not good again. Northwestern, bad again. Maryland, not going to be very good. And then they have Ohio State. So Michigan, they're going to be fine. I really like the Bryce Underwood kid. I really like the talent to be a little more specific. Looks significantly better than Arch Manning. Like Bryce Underwood just looks so different from Arch. Like ball's got real zip on it, moves a little bit better. Like you can just tell that, Arch Manning, good prospect. He's going to be a good quarterback. I'm not overly worried about it. But talent-wise, not as talented as Bryce Underwood. Not as talented as Bryce Underwood is. So, we throw around the word generational. Arch Manning's a generational talent. I don't know about that. I think we use the word generational way too often. I think it's a word that should only be used once in a generation. And we used it a couple years ago with Caleb Williams, and rightfully so, okay? Because that dude in college was absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Big arm, athletic, looked like a number 1 pick from the moment that he stepped on the field as a freshman. Arch Manning, I like him. I think Texas is going to win a lot of games. Or are they going to win a national title? I don't know. But didn't look anything like Bryce Underwood did or has looked, and definitely didn't look like anything that Caleb Williams has looked like. So, very excited for the college football season. Very excited for a big college football Saturday, the NFL season. I'm just glad that football's here. We got a big, awesome Thursday night football game tomorrow night between the Commanders and the Packers. That game's going to be important. 2 teams maybe vying to be the 1 seed in the NFC. 2 good young quarterbacks. 2 teams with very big aspirations this year. Commanders went to the NFC Championship game last year. They're going to look to repeat that. And then, of course, the Packers, you don't make that trade for Micah Parsons unless you think you've got an absolute squad of a team good enough to play in and maybe even win the Super Bowl. So we know that they have very high expectations as well. That Thursday night game is going to be awesome tomorrow night. Can't wait for it. Also can't wait for Max Toscano to join the show to talk a little bit of Tyler Warren, which he's going to do here in 4.5 minutes.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show, hour number 2 here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in to the show, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. The Indy Sports Ticket app and 1430 AM as well if you want to listen that way. But if you are watching on X, go ahead and just type into the search bar Max Toscano 1. It'll pull up this very awesome account that does a great job of covering the NFL. Max Toscano joins the show now. Fantastic writer. He writes for both Bengals Talk, and he has his own Substack called Remember the Tight End. He's also a former defensive and analytics intern for UConn football. So this guy knows his stuff. Max, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just trying to catch up on week 1 still. I've been kind of watching tape nonstop for the last couple of days, so I'm kind of almost looking for air, but it's kind of the best time of year, right? You're just kind of, at least for me, it feels like when I log on to the NFL Pro there, it just feels like I'm opening all these little presents on Christmas morning. So I'm doing great.
That's good. That's a good way to put it. Whose tape has popped out to you the most? Like, who's the guy that you're just like, man, that was awesome to watch?
Just overall that I've seen so far, I would say definitely Armand Membu with the Jets at right tackle. He's one of the best players in the league, period, on Sunday. And to do that in your first start, drawing TJ Watt consistently and locking him down in the pass game and executing the run game pretty flawlessly. He looks like a Pro Bowl right tackle already. And this is, his first dip in the pool. So I was most impressed by him. And granted, I haven't watched, I've probably watched half of the league games. So I was watching some college stuff as well. So that's definitely an incomplete list, but he's certainly up there. I haven't watched the Rams game, but I imagine Stafford will be up there. Myles Garrett's probably the best player in the NFL. So I was certainly impressed by him. But yeah, I mean, and from a Colts perspective, Tyler Warren was great. I thought Daniel Jones was really good. I don't really think that he was just taking easy stuff and putting up numbers against a horrible defense, even though the Dolphins do look pretty bad. Yeah, I was pretty impressed by him as well. And of course, Tyler Warren was great.
What was impressive about Daniel Jones? Because I kind of felt like bad Dolphins defense. I felt like everyone was just running wide open, and look, like the Colts have had a guy playing quarterback the last 2 years who couldn't hit wide open guys. So it was really nice to see. But if I had to give his thing like a grade, his performance a grade, I'd have given him like a B+, just because it looked really easy. So what was impressive to you about Daniel Jones's play?
Yeah, I mean, I think that grade's pretty on point, which I think is pretty good. This is not a guy who's been getting B+. Yeah. So that's definitely an improvement. He made a couple throws where I thought he was seeing things a little bit better. And again, there's a huge caveat here with the defense he was facing, and the lack of a pass rush that they were able to generate and everything. But there were some throws and some dropbacks where I thought he was seeing things a little bit more clearly and crisply than he has in the past. Obviously, he's getting more experience, and he'll never get to the level where he's some great processor. I mean, when you start your career that rough in that regard, you're just starting from such a low baseline. Even though you will improve as your career goes on, you'll never get to some high level. But I think he looks like he's continuing to get crisper and more confident in how he sees things, and it's helpful to be in a better system than what he was in New York, and with a much better offensive line than the kind of dysfunction they had there. And it's not to say that he didn't make it worse with how he managed pressure, but I think that this keeps him a little bit more insulated. And so as a result, I thought we saw a little bit more confidence in his vision, a little bit more decisiveness in his timing, and I thought he was able to pick some tighter and more sliding windows than he'd usually been able to get to. Like that throw to Pierce down the sideline was a fantastic throw, and there's just a lot of confidence and accuracy there that we haven't really seen from him. honestly since like that first preseason with New York, and that first game against the Bucks where everyone thought he was the guy. So I just thought he looked better. I thought he was better than the baseline we saw from him, and I definitely wouldn't call him some superstar over here, but he looks improved.
Joined by Max Toscano, an excellent football writer. You can read his stuff over at Bengals Talk and remember the tight end. So I was talking about Daniel Jones earlier in the show, and the people here who like him and want him to succeed, they always bring up the Sam Darnold, Geno Smith stories of just kind of, a little change of scenery, and all of a sudden guys can kind of figure it out a bit. And my thing with Sam Darnold last year, I felt like he went from a guy who, when he played well, you were concerned about your defense, to a guy who, when he played well, you were like, it's just what Sam Darnold is doing this year. How often or how consistently do we need to see those kinds of games that we saw from Daniel Jones on Sunday for him to kind of make that switch to a guy where you're like, okay, like I expect him to be good every single week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll ever be a guy that you're giving some big, even secondary market quarterback contract to. Like, he's never going to be a franchise guy, but like, can he be that kind of guy where he's like where he's like Sam Darnold, where he's a competent journeyman starter that if you plop in a good situation can make a good offense? I think we need to see probably like, a good half a year of not necessarily these box scores, because if he's putting up these statistics every week, he's probably going to win the MVP. But this kind of performance, I think we need to see consistently. And I think we need to see him stay above water against defenses that are going to heat him up, defenses that are going to take things away and make it a little bit more difficult. I think there's a lot of the infrastructure there. Shane Steichen's it's kind of been forgotten a little bit just by how abysmal his quarterback play has been and truly non-functional over the last like few years. But this is a good play caller. This is a guy who's really sound. He draws stuff up well. Their protections are sound, and they're not blowing things too much. Concepts are good. Play calling and sequencing is good. They run the ball well. So it's a sound environment. I just think we need to see him be able to take what's given in that and stay above water against good teams. And I think we need to see a little bit of consistency on it, even as the numbers ebb and flow. I think we need to see that kind of stability and ability to for lack of a better term, quote unquote, manage the game, as people always say.
Joined by Max Toscano, who does an excellent job covering both the NFL and college football. You can read his stuff over at Bengals Talk and remember the tight end. Last thing on Daniel Jones, and then we can talk about Tyler Warren. So I've been looking for someone to ask this question, and I think that you're the guy to ask. So here in Indy, Coach Steichen talked a lot about how when he was evaluating Richardson and Jones, he was looking at a lot of like the pre-snap stuff. And so where does processing meet pre-snap? Because the way that I understand it, it's like if I'm, in my formation or whatever, and I can see that you're in cover 3, then I'm going to get us into a play to beat cover 3 and then make the throw. So like, I guess I'll just go back to what I said originally. Like where does the pre-snap stuff kind of transition to a quarterback's ability to process? Like how does that work?
This is such a great question. And I think that you obviously understand the distinction and that there is a distinction. I think so many people, and you see it online all the time, where people say pre-snap processing. There really isn't pre-snap processing because nothing is moving fast and you're not on a clock. Well, I mean, you're on a play clock, but you're not on that 2.5 second read and react. Can you see through the blur kind of deal? That's where it's about homework. That's where it's about film study. That's where it's about your X and O smarts. Like I could operate well pre-snap probably, right? If I studied an offense well enough, if I knew the system, if I studied the looks, if I watched defensive film and I studied as hard as I needed to, I could go out there, make the right calls, make the right protection checks and all that. Right. But when the ball is snapped, I'm crumpling to the ground immediately because it's just this insane blur that I can't see through. And now, of course, I'm no athlete, so I don't really have a chance to. But at the same time, like I know just by even playing Madden and the sort of shortcuts I take to get the ball out before I get sacked. Like, I leave pockets early. I lock onto stuff. I know I can't process, but I know that I can, if I studied hard enough and I knew all the calls and I did my homework and prepared properly, I could operate pre-snap. So pre-snap is about intelligence. It's about studying. It's about work. And it's about how diligent you are about knowing your stuff, knowing your calls, knowing your adjustments, knowing all of that stuff, and studying defense and picking stuff out. That's where your student of the gameness comes into place, comes into play. And when you're processing, when the ball is snapped, that is really just about how quickly your brain can see and make clear sense of an image that is moving so quickly. And that's just pure. It's different neurologically. It's a totally different part of your brain. And so I think that it's the distinction between reaction time and pure vision, and your ability to kind of dodge the bullets and see into the matrix a little bit, versus pre-snap, which is really more homework.
Okay, so I'm going to dumb this way down because I, Max, am not even smart enough to do the pre-snap stuff. So it sounds like pre-snap is where you figure out what you're supposed to do, and then the processing aspect is like when you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, to an extent, or what you do when it's not there, right? Like if you can have an idea pre-snap, and I think, because I study their defense, that when they align this way to this formation and then they bring that safety down, they're going to end up in, cover 3 with the safety in the flat, right? So that gives me an idea that I can go to, the seam to the other side, because the safety's down that way and there's nobody to close the seam from that side from depth. And this is just an example. You don't need to understand what I'm talking about there, but like, I, as the quarterback, can know, like, all right, I'm going to go work that seam. And then if they spin out of it and fool me, I need to be able to then pick up what they're in and then find the actual right answer, even though I don't have that predilection about what's actually happening. That's processing. That's processing. Because what if you're wrong? Or what if a guy falls? What if a guy gets rerouted too hard and ends up out of time and he can't get to his break point when you need him to? Or if you're just going through a pure progression and you don't have a coverage read like that, and you're just going 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, you have to determine what is and is not open. So you got to see, that's pure processing. That's where you got to see those windows. And it does take out the layer where you have to pick up the coverage, but like, that's sort of the deal there. It's less about knowing what to do and then executing it, because if you can narrow your vision and know what to do beforehand, you can just lock onto that thing and focus on the throw and lock onto it, which makes everything so much easier. But processing is what you is when you see if it's actually there, and if not, what you have to do about it.
Okay, that makes sense. Max Toscano joining the show. Excellent football writer for Bengals Talk, and remember, the tight end, also a former defensive and analytics intern for UConn football. Let's talk about Tyler Warren, a guy here in Indy that everyone loves. What did you make of his NFL debut?
In a lot of ways, they didn't ask a lot of him as a blocker, for sure. They got him on the move a lot. They've gotten a lot of 12 personnel when they wanted to run the ball. They did a lot of tricky stuff to get him out of the most difficult in-line assignments, which is very, very standard practice for rookie tight ends, no matter who they are, unless they truly are pure blockers and do nothing else. And even then, those guys don't really start that early. So that's not surprising. I don't think we've necessarily seen this true alpha, everything number 1 tight end yet, but at the same time, he's clearly somebody who they want to get the ball to, and he's somebody that's obviously worthy of that, because he was very productive. He made plays after the catch. I don't think he did anything crazy as a route runner, but I thought his feel for zones in the underneath was a little bit better than it was at Penn State, just because he was such a downfield there. So a lot of that little more static, quick gamey underneath stuff is a little bit more new to him. And I thought he looked pretty impressive. He found his windows. He settled when he needed to settle. And then obviously he was able to create after the catch when he got it. And he was able to threaten a little bit downfield as well. We saw that wheel that the safety or whoever, I don't really remember specifically, didn't carry, and he was able to clear that and get open. He's making tough catches. Obviously, he's taking a lot of contact and is able to survive with the ball. I don't think we're anywhere near seeing peak Tyler Warren. I think from a production perspective, this is kind of what I expected him to look like, but I think there's still a little bit left in the tank as far as what he can do when he gets more confident, when he's able to play a little bit faster, and when he's able to take on a little bit more of a route as a route runner. So I wasn't necessarily out here saying this is like, oh, he's already first team All Pro kind of guy despite the numbers. But if this is his starting point, then you gotta be super happy with that, I'd imagine.
Max Toscano on the line talking about Tyler Warren and his NFL debut. One of the things that surprised me, I was just kind of surprised that they didn't go to him in the red zone more, especially given the Colts' struggles in the red zone during the game. Is that an area where you would kind of expect for them to go to him more as the season continues, or is that a thing? I know you mentioned that his route running isn't super great right now. Is he limited in the red zone because he's not a great route runner?
Well, I mean, I think a little bit to an extent. I think it depends on what defenses are going to do in the red zone. I think obviously, they can definitely use him as a short yardage back potentially, which is something that I think they could get into. We saw him on that fullback dive. At one point, it wasn't on the goal line, but I think that that's something they can do in short yardage situations with him. And obviously, that's not as a receiver, but that's a good way to get him in the end zone. Yeah, I think he needs to get a little bit better at running routes through contact to be a huge weapon in the red zone, because it really does become a lot about leverage and getting to your positions. And he's a great contested catch guy just because he's so big and physical, but that alone is not going to carry you in the NFL. But he is explosive enough as a jumper. He high points well, all that, so that when I think he does develop that feel a little bit for defenders, I think he'll be a big threat in the red zone. I just don't know if that's there yet.
Okay, that makes sense. How much of his success came from the fact that he was playing the Dolphins, whose secondary and linebackers aren't exactly great in coverage?
A lot, if we're being honest.
Okay.
It's sort of a similar situation with Fannin against the Bengals. A lot of like his production was on checkdowns, some screens, and a couple plays where he just toasted Jordan Battle, who's continues to kind of struggle. So it wasn't like either of these guys were necessarily out there dicing up nickels or whatnot, but they're rookies. I think that was certainly a lot of it, but at the same time, like, we did see some playmaking after the catch, and we saw his ability to, especially in that Y role when he's popping behind the linebackers, when he's working on those safeties, that he's going to be able to do it, even if those guys aren't great in Miami, which they're not. I look, I don't think he's going for the numbers that he did if they played a better defense, but it's still, it's still, at the end of the day, it's NFL competition. That's why I think, it's you can't, rookie tight ends, it's so hard to produce anyway that, like, when you do it, you get excited about it and you don't put too many qualifiers on it.
Joined by Max Toscano talking about Tyler Warren. Max is a football writer for Bengals Talk, and remember, the tight end over on Substack. Make sure you go check out all of his stuff because it's always really, really good. How much of a step up in competition is it going to be for him this week against the Broncos when he's dealing with a guy in Dre Greenlaw, who I think has been one of the better coverage linebackers in the NFL? Hufunga coming down from the safety spot to cover is usually pretty solid as well. So how much of a step up in competition is he going to see this week?
It might be from like worst to first. We'll see how bad the Dolphins defense actually ends up being, but the Broncos defense, I think we all know, is going to be probably top 3 to 5 in the league. I thought they were the best defense in the NFL last year, and they've only added to that. They look fantastic. So it's a huge one. It's as big as it gets, but that's the league, and I think that it's still it's still not quite the jumping competition you see in college when guys break out against like, you know, UT whatever, and then go play Ohio State. But it's pretty huge. It's pretty huge. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens in those situations where coverage is tough, where those windows are not as clear and crisp as they were against Miami, and you're not able to just scheme him touches. I think he's gonna have to go win a little bit more, and it's gonna be tougher for him as a blocker too against all those 5-man fronts. If they can get him on Nick Benito, that'd be nice, but they got dudes up there, so this is the game I'm really looking for, because it's just such a tough matchup for any offense. But it's a really, really tough matchup for a tight end, like you said, because they have linebackers and safeties that can cover, and they have those 5-man fronts that are going to get you on an edge defender a little bit more than if a team is reducing an edge inside and you can double incline to a linebacker or wrap and pull a lot. So it's going to be a challenge, and I think it's really going to be a challenge for Daniel Jones too. As to circle back to that, I think that's really going to be the interesting test of how viable this thing is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been saying. Everyone here is very excited about Daniel Jones after week 1. Max, it's been so funny to see like the outrage that Daniel Jones won the job to the week 1 win. Everyone all of a sudden being like, let's go Daniel Jones. Once again,
he's our best friend now, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Joined by Max Toscano, football writer for Bengals Talk, and remember the tight end. He's also a former defensive and analytics intern for UConn football. If you just listen to the guy talk for 30 seconds, it's like this guy is really, really smart. I'm going to ask you a selfish question just because I want your opinion on a guy that I really like in the world of college football. John Mateer kind of reminds me of Lamar Jackson, which is probably an insult to Lamar Jackson. What do you think of Oklahoma? Because there's a part of me that's like, could this team like maybe win the SEC?
Yeah, I mean, are we talking about John Mateer as a draft prospect or John Mateer as a college football player? Because those are very different answers for me.
Let's do both.
All right, so as a draft prospect, I think he's Drew Lock with wheels, which is just not that great, at least right now. They're so similar just as passers, especially in that offense that just doesn't ask them to really do anything difficult post-snap or pre-snap, really, for that matter. But they can sure throw the hell out of the ball. They have the same build too, and that same 3/4 arm slot, and they're both so accurate vertically down the sidelines. But like anything in the middle of the field becomes an adventure with those sliding windows and those linebackers, and that's even in an offense where it's just really, really easy to do so because of the space and because of how narrow and simplified the post-snap reads are. So if you were to put him in the NFL next year, it would probably be pretty bad. We'll see how he develops, but that's, they're asking less of him than they even asked of Cam Ward in that same offense 2 years ago. So it's I think he's fast Drew Lock, or like almost kind of like Colin Kaepernick, because that's how Colin Kaepernick is basically fast Drew Lock. So that's sort of what I think of him as draft prospect, which I think is irrelevant now because he is a hell of a college football player. He's electric, right? Like he's so fast and explosive, and he does have that great arm to drive the ball accurately outside the numbers and downfield, which in this offense is really all you need, especially with their receivers that they have emerging. Deion Burks looks like a dog. Jaron Kanik, that their quote unquote tight end, who I think should drop 15 pounds and play slot in the NFL, because I think he has the quickness and the precision to do it. He's been a real weapon for them in the underneath and in the middle. So I think it's pretty fun. I don't think their offensive line is going to be necessarily good enough to hold up against a Texas or an LSU, who are really going to heat you up and destroy your run game. And then, things can unravel a little bit from there. But for the rest of their schedule, this guy's a hell of a playmaker. I definitely think he could end up in New York. And I think he's so fun, and that defense is great, right? Brent Venables is one of the premier scheme lords of college defensive football over the last 15 years. He's still got it, so they're fun. They're a good team.
They are fun. They are a good team. Mateer's he's just fun. Last thing for you, Max.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's electric.
Last thing for you, and I will let you go. So I don't know if you saw this stat, but Brock Bowers only played half of the snaps for the Raiders on Sunday. And when he was in, they went straight up, drop back pass 84% of the time. I know that you mentioned that the Colts didn't ask for Tyler Warren to do a ton in terms of run blocking. But from what you did see from him, it's not going to be a tip of the hand where it is with Brock Bowers, where it's like when Bowers is in the game, the Raiders are throwing the football. But with Warren, he is serviceable enough for them to be able to run the ball whenever he's in the game, right?
Yep, and that's all you need. And that's all you need is if you're going to catch the ball at least at a high level, if you're not going to catch the ball, you need to be a great blocker, of course, but to ever play, but because then you're just good at nothing if you're not. But it's if you're going to be a guy who is a receiving threat, all you need to do is be serviceable enough in that inline Y spot, not as a move blocker, not as the second tight end on the field, but serviceable enough one-on-oneing defensive ends that you can play there credibly and not completely tip the hand and kill your run game. That's all you need. If you look at guys like Sam Laporta and TJ Hawkinson, that's what they are. They're not great blockers. They're not even good blockers, but they're serviceable enough that their run games can function with them in line. And they do, right? The Lions ran the hell out of the ball in 11 personnel last year with Laporta in there because he was just serviceable enough to not kill it. And same goes for TJ Hawkinson. So you just gotta earn your spot on the field there. That's all you need to do. And Brock Bowers, it's kind of tough because he's not one of those guys who's really just not interested in blocking. He's just small. He's 230 pounds. So he showed up to the combine at 243 and didn't test. So you can or 241, I think. So you can easily knock off an extra 10 pounds for that. Just because so much of that is weigh-in weight. He's not big. He's not big enough to take on these 260-pound defensive ends one-on-one in any way without getting completely destroyed. And you just can't run the ball under those conditions with that guy on the end of the line. So if they're going to run the ball, if anybody's going to run the ball, they need that inline guy at least consistently. Because if you don't have that guy and you have to hide him, the math doesn't add up for you, and you're tipping your hand where you're running the ball, what you can and can't do, and all that. So it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
so they need a guy in line, and it's just not him. But I don't understand. I still don't understand though with him specifically, and this does not apply to most tight ends that are like this that can't block in line because he's just so different as a mover and pass catcher and route runner that he should just be in one of their receiver spots permanently.
Yeah,
and then move to second tight, and then move in line, and then not in line, but move into the formation as that second tight end move blocker when they want to get into 12, and when they want to get into 11 personnel, just flex him out as one of the receivers and just live in 12.
That seems smart to me because I was going to ask about his size because you just look at him and then you look at any other tight end in the NFL, and there's a pretty noticeable difference in terms of the size. So that's really interesting, especially for the Raiders, because it's not like they're just I like Jacoby Myers. Outside of that, don't really love the pass catchers aside from Bowers. So I don't know. That makes a lot of sense to me. Max, thank you for your time, man. That was a great 30 minutes. I feel like whenever I talk to you, I feel like I get smarter, and that's always a good thing. Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Love coming on.
That is Max Toscano. You can go check him out on X at Max Toscano1. Just loves football, really smart. Spent some time at UConn as a defensive and analytics intern. So just a really smart dude who loves to talk about the tight end position. So we're definitely gonna have to have him on as the year continues. When we come back in 4 minutes, it's Wednesday, which means we got to do a little bit of over the hump day. We're going to focus on Daniel Jones for this one in about 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X, _ Jonathan Smith, follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And what you should do is you should pull out your phone, unless you're driving. If you're driving, don't do that. Pull out your phone, go to IndySportsTicket.com so you can join the Indy Sports Ticket family, me, Dan Dockich, and everyone else on Saturday, October 4th for an afternoon of sipping high-end bourbon and hitting some golf balls. It's our second annual Bourbon and Birdies presented by Payless Liquors. We did the event last year. It's an absolute blast. We're going back to Back Nine Golf and Entertainment. It's going to be an awesome day with great bourbon, me hitting the piss out of golf balls, eating great food, and just hanging out with a lot of really good people. You can buy those tickets over at IndySportsTicket.com. You can also text Bourbon to 317-228-1430 for your chance to buy some tickets as well. Anthony Rizzo is retiring, and that really kind of sucks. I loved that dude growing up. Like, grew up a Cubs fan. You know, he was obviously a very large part of, you know, the Cubs winning the World Series in 2016 and being just a really good baseball team in 2015. And, you know, he obviously leaves and he went to play for the freaking Yankees of all places. But love that dude. Loved his career. Was just a really good player. You know, his WAR for his career was 40. He's a 3-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glove winner, you know, 303 homers in his career, 1,600 hits. He hit, you know, 260, you know, during a time where, you know, if he hit 250, that's good. So was just a really awesome player. Was, you know, one of the rare guys in the league nowadays where, you know, like, he'd get 2 strikes on him and he'd choke up on the bat. And I'll never forget when he started doing that. It was just such a big deal because power hitters, like, they don't do that anymore. You know, and just seeing him elevate the importance of putting the ball in play and giving yourself a chance, you know, is just, it was just really cool to see. I loved watching him play on my beloved Cubbies, but he's retiring. The Cubs are going to honor him on Saturday at their home game. Went a little long with Max, so we got to take another very quick break. When we come back, over the hump day on a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X, _ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And, of course, 14:30 a.m. if you're cruising around the Indianapolis area. So last year, quarterback defense attorney was a staple of the show. Okay? We did it. We defended Anthony Richardson every week, no matter how good or bad he played. This year, we're not going to do that because it just doesn't work the same. It doesn't. Unless things go really sideways for Daniel Jones, I don't think that we're going to be dealing with, 46% completion percentages week in and week out. So this year, we're going to do over the hump day for Daniel Jones because he's going to be the reason, or the reason why not, the Colts either get over the hump and get back into the playoffs, or they don't. And he himself is also fighting to get over the hump. Shout out to Mike Woodson for inspiring this segment, Over the Hump Day, on a Wednesday.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo! Hump day!
No, as a coach, I gotta get us over that hump. I gotta get them comfortable, knowing that you're gonna be in close games and you gotta make plays coming down the home stretch. I mean, in the tournament, we were right there. I just didn't get them over the hump, man. And that's something that I live with every day of my life. Because I truly believe that was the team to really make some noise and get to the finals, and I just couldn't get them over the hump.
Mike Woodson just, recapping all the times he couldn't get his teams over the hump. Hopefully Daniel Jones is able to get the Colts over the hump, and hopefully he's able to get over the career hump himself, earn a nice little contract, have a little Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith like resurgence. Because right now, he's on this 1-year prove-it deal. 1 year, $14 million, come in, turn the Colts around, and if he does, then, he's probably in line to make a little bit more money going forward. And he's done two things to move in that direction. Okay? He won the job. That's the most important thing. When this competition started, a very common saying or opinion was that if Anthony Richardson gets beat out by Daniel Jones, then he's done. Because if you can't beat out Daniel Jones, then it's pretty clear that you're not very good. The same was true for Daniel Jones. If he'd gotten beaten out by a guy in Anthony Richardson who's completed 51% of his passes so far through his career, then Daniel Jones would have been done. His career, he'd have been doomed to be a backup for the rest of his NFL life. It's the reality of it. Okay? And now he's trying to get over this hump, right? The Colts are obviously trying to get over it, trying to get back into the playoffs. Chris Ballard's trying to save his job. Shane Steichen's trying to save his job. And Daniel Jones is trying to help them do that. But he's also trying to get over the hump himself. Okay? And he took a step in that direction by having a big week 1 game and a win over the Miami Dolphins. And so as we're going to do this over the hump day throughout the season, how would I define Daniel Jones getting over the hump? I want to talk about Sam Darnold last year. There was a shift that happened at some point during the season where Sam Darnold went from a guy who, when he played against you and he played well, your reaction was to question your defense. Say, oh man, like Sam Darnold just threw for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns against us. Like, is our secondary bad? Is that going to be a problem going forward? And then at some point, everyone came to this realization where it's like, no, your secondary is not bad. Sam Darnold has just figured it out this year, and this is just kind of who he's going to be as he went on to have a top 5 season in the NFL if you just go by the numbers, right? And then you throw in the fact that his team went 14-3. So pretty impressive there as well. And that is the transition that Daniel Jones has to make. Because I would argue that currently he's in this category of quarterback of like Joe Flacco and Spencer Rattler or Justin Fields, where if Joe Flacco or Spencer Rattler or Justin Fields, let's take Fields because he was really good on Sunday. Like Justin Fields had a big game against Pittsburgh, and now Steeler fans are like, is our defense going to be good? Like, should we have kept Minkah Fitzpatrick instead of making the trade for Jalen Ramsey? Seriously, like this, the Steelers defense, they spent more money on their defense than any other team in the NFL. Justin Fields had a big day. Now Steeler fans are panicking a little bit, right? And so that's kind of where Daniel Jones is at right now. Like when, the Colts beat the Dolphins 33-8 on Sunday, the mass reaction was not, oh, Daniel Jones, what a stud. The reaction was, Dolphins defense, man. Must not be very good if Daniel Jones is doing that against them. And we're going to find out whether or not that was the correct reaction as the season goes on. Because there's a world where both things are true. The Dolphins defense is bad and Daniel Jones is good. And he's going to have a big opportunity coming up on Sunday to kind of prove that to be true. And so he's got to move from this, when he plays well, you question your defense category of quarterback too. When he plays well, you're like, yeah, he's just a good player. Or when he plays bad, teams feel good about their defense. Like let's take the inverse of this. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson each just hung 40 points up on their opposing team's defense. And people don't seem to be overly concerned about the Ravens defense or the Bills defense. Like there's this feeling of it's Lamar Jackson, it's Josh Allen. Like of course they scored 40. Like that's just what these guys do. Like let's just chalk up these bad defensive games to the fact that we were facing greatness for several hours there. Okay. And so Daniel Jones definitely not in that category of it. So Daniel Jones took a big step in the right direction with that big game against the Dolphins. Okay. 22 of 29, 272 yards, 3 total touchdowns. Really good day. Really good day. Looked easy because the team that he was playing against wasn't very good. And that's the narrative right now. Okay. Daniel Jones played well because the Dolphins aren't good. He's going to have an opportunity to take another step in the right direction with a big game against the Broncos. Because this is a significantly bigger test than the Dolphins. Like that Dolphins secondary was just kind of scrapped together with a bunch of day 3 picks, an undrafted free agent is their best corner, and a free agent that no one else wanted. That is the Miami Dolphins secondary. That is not the Denver Broncos secondary. Okay, like that Denver Broncos secondary is nasty. The pass rush is nasty. Led the NFL in sacks last year. Nick Bonito coming off the edge, 13.5 sacks a season ago. Patrick Surtain, the reigning defensive player of the year and the best cover corner in the NFL. Talanoa Hufanga is one of the best safeties in the NFL. Riley Moss is a really good cornerback number 2. Dre Greenlaw is a stud, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Zach Allen can get after the passer. It's a really good Broncos defense. It is a significant step up in competition going from playing the Dolphins to playing the Broncos. So if Daniel Jones has another excellent game, let's say he's like 20 of 30 passing, Colts win 24-21, and he's 20 of 30 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns and no turnovers, then it's going to be easier to believe that he's going to have this Sam Darnold-like resurgence, right? It's going to be easier to believe that he's moving towards getting over this theoretical hump of throwaway quarterback that couldn't win in New York to a guy who just needed a change of scenery like a Sam Darnold. So big game for him on Sunday to continue to prove that the issues in New York were not because of him, but they were because of the personnel and the coach. Today's Wednesday. I think I'm going to do this throughout the season as well. Last year we did Top 10 Tuesday, which was fun, but it kind of dragged a little bit. Tuesdays, like you still kind of want to talk about the Colts. So on Wednesdays, we're going to start doing third day top 3. And it's just the 3 NFL teams that I thought played the best over the weekend. Number 1's the Chargers. I thought they were awesome. They beat the Chiefs the way that the Chiefs beat everybody. They just made the play. Like, I was waiting for a Chris Jones sack or a Patrick Mahomes crazy play to kind of allow for the Chiefs to kind of overcome the Chargers and win the game. And the Chargers just didn't let it happen. Justin Herbert made every big throw, and he had a big scramble late to put the game on ice. Just was very impressed with them. No Rashawn Slater playing left tackle. They moved Joe Alt over there. Offensive line didn't miss a beat doing that either. So, I mean, I feel like you got to like the Chargers after what you saw from them in week 1. Number 2, you got the Bills. Look, if you come back from down 15 points in the final 4 minutes of a game against a team good enough to win the Super Bowl, like, you're going to make this list every time. Okay. When the Bills defense needed to make a play, they did. Ed Oliver, who had a really nice game, forces a fumble, breaks through the offensive line, doesn't even try to tackle Derrick Henry. Like, he just goes straight for the football. Okay. So he forces the fumble, Bills jump on it. Then Josh Allen was Josh Allen for the final 3 minutes, and he made it happen, right? Patrick Mahomes, still the best quarterback on the planet, and he will be until further notice. But, both Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen were awesome on Sunday. Josh Allen just found a way, and Lamar Jackson didn't manage the clock well enough at the end to be able to run it out. And then finally, the third team that really impressed on Sunday is your Indianapolis Colts. Like, they just played the most complete game of any other team in the NFL. Like they won by 4 possessions. That doesn't happen in the NFL. Even the bad teams keep it close in some way, shape, or form. Like the Saints, a team that's probably going to be the worst team in the NFL, they only lost by a touchdown. The Cowboys, who were significantly worse than Philly, they only lost by 4 on the road. Who else is bad this year? The Giants, they got thumped. Who else is bad this year? Man, there's another team. The Titans, team that's not supposed to be very good this year, lost by 1 possession to the Broncos, who were supposed to be awesome. Winning by 4 possessions in the NFL is not a normal thing. It's not. And it's just a testament to how well the Colts offense and defense played on Sunday. And hopefully they're able to maintain that level as they host the Denver Broncos this upcoming Sunday at 4:00. Going to be a good one. That's going to do it here on the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to the show. I greatly appreciate it, as always, whether it was YouTube, X, the app, or 14:30 a.m. I greatly appreciate it. Make sure you're back tomorrow, 10 to noon. Going to be a really good show. The Dan Ockett Show comes your way next as he continues talking Colts and whatever else he wants to talk about. I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m.